There we go. I see it.
All right, we're on for another episode of Lock Talk, week 4. We are creeping in. It is college football week 0, and we are having a little try box here. We've got Sim Harmon from Kutt. We're going to talk to Sim in a second, obviously myself and Joey. Before we do that, shout out Dan Koob. Big shout out, Dan Koob. Great interview last week. If you didn't have a chance to look at it, we've got the interview on our YouTube. He has a very interesting way to bet football and everything going forward. I had some buddies in Colorado that actually hit me up that were pretty excited about that. This time around, we are going to talk Sim. We've got SEC talk. He is an SEC, ex-SEC lunatic, current SEC fan. We will talk SEC with him because we haven't talked yet. We are going to talk week 0 as well. When Sam hops off, Joey and I do have to talk AFC East, NFC North, and then next week, hopefully we're knocking out AFC and NFC West. We've got some guys we'd like to get on, but they do have children, which is quite the variable when you're trying to do a small podcast. I couldn't imagine selling that to my significant other, but hey, if we can get them on, we'd love to. Regardless, we'll talk to Ben and Gino at some point going forward. So let's talk first. I want to talk before we get into SEC because there's so much I want to get into there. Let's talk Kutt. Sim, Joey, take it away, man. This is a really, I will say ahead of time, I had no idea what this was. This was all new to me, so I'm kind of excited to learn even more. Go ahead, fellas.
Kutt. Well, Sim, thanks for joining, man. We've known each other for about a year now, I want to say. I think we met a couple of times, doing the whole Zoom thing, just getting to know each other. You got a cool little platform there with Kutt. So tell us a little bit about Kutt. I actually have a question before we get into the actual.
Go ahead.
KUTT. What is the origin?
That's a great question. Everyone asks that, and I wish I had a better answer for you. When I first started the business, this was over a year ago. I was looking for kind of like gambling related names, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the first thing that I thought was like, let me pick a domain, right? And I swear to God, every freaking domain name that you
going so fast.
already been
They're
taken,
going so fast. I
run
into the same issue.
100%. Yeah. And so like we were trying to get something that was a bit like gambling tangential, that you could kind of make into a gambling term. So for us, we said, okay, hey, you can take a cut, of kind of a vig, right? You cut out the middleman, right? There's some words that you could use that are gambling, kind of, again, tangential. And Kutt.com was actually available at the time. And so, so I purchased basically I purchased the domain first and then named the company. But yeah, it's one of these things that, when you name in companies, you start adding an extra T or, adding a Y instead of an I. It doesn't really make a ton of sense, but in my head, it's marketable. There's nothing else with the name Kutt. And again, you can kind of have some fun with the advertising side of it, cutting out the middleman, cutting out the vig. So.
Of course, man. Well, it's the 2020s. A lot of companies have weird ass spellings to their names. Case in point, Lock Talk, LOCCTOCC. Obviously, the podcast, we decided to spell it normally. But that's a funny answer you had, because when I concluded I wanted my app to be Lock Talk, I loved it too much and I didn't want to change it or.
You fall in love with the name.
I fell in love with the name. Obviously, all, the Instagram handles, the Twitter handles, the domains, everything was taken. So then I was like, whatever, let's just take the, Silicon Valley startup route. Let's add some Q's or some C's or, whatever in there. And then I settled on LOCCTOCC, booked the domain, secured all the social media handles and just took it and ran with it. So that's
for sure. I think that's the thing, right? Like, it may be an ugly baby, but it's your ugly baby, right? You got to own it and just double down on it. So
it could be worse. Kutt is cool. I like that. So there it is. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the platform and where, which states you're in and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, so listen, I used to have this long spiel about, what we do and whatnot, but at the end of the day, Kutt is friend-to-friend betting, right? It's basically taking the bets that you're making with your buddies on a day-to-day basis. Those handshake bets, those group chat bets, even those bets you might make on Twitter, or whatever. And we formalize those. We take care of the payment so that no one can flake on you. And then we also have a really a big component of social features, that really, I think, make things a bit more fun and engaging, because we think that's what's missing in the current sports betting world, right? It's just a lot of it is getting very financialized. If you log into DraftKings or FanDuel, I think for the average bettor, it can be a bit overwhelming because it's just numbers, yeah. Right? And so we're trying to add kind of that social flavor into it. So it's not just sports; could be really anything with a verifiable outcome. Think politics, pop culture. Eventually want to get to esports and even social bets, right? It's like if you're at like a gender reveal party and you and your buddies want to make a $20 bet, it's going to be a boy or a girl, right? That's eventually what we want to get to.
That will happen in my life.
Yeah.
Except I'm doing a -120 vig on both sides.
There you go. Well, it's funny you say that, because I see people now, like a lot of people on gambling Twitter, they're posting, they go to a wedding and like they will have props,
the card.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Something that's been discussed. I've been already shot down. May still happen.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's something that I think, people are becoming more familiar with. And so basically we just said, hey, we're doing that. We're taking existing bets that you're already making with your friends, or like I said, some random dude on Twitter. And we're just formalizing that process and taking care of the payment side. So
cool. Yeah. Just streamlining all that, social betting, which is pretty cool. So that's awesome. What states are you in? Because I know you're kind of spread out, right?
Yeah. So and I know you've had, so I'm a big fan of Sporttrade. I know y'all had Sporttrade on last week.
Oh yeah.
And, love the exchange space. Ultimately that's similar to what we're doing. Again, we're
definitely
slightly different, but similar. We are different, however, in our, I guess, kind of legal or regulatory, purview, in the sense that we have gone to market as a game of skill. And then by doing that, that actually allows us to operate in 36 states across the U.S. So there are several other people in our space that kind of have that social element and the peer-to-peer element, where who you're betting against, right? And by doing that, it allows us to operate in, like I said, the majority of the U.S. states. We've got a full list on the app and on our website, so you can go check it out there. I could name them for you, but there's really no.
Are you live in Wisconsin?
Yes, we are live in Wisconsin. So
awesome.
Yeah,
sweet. I thought we were left out last week.
No, I mean, and that is kind of the beauty, and I mean, not to turn this into the business of betting, type of conversation, but it is a very interesting space right now. There's a lot of nuance in the legal requirements. There's a lot of nuance in kind of the, you can operate, your social app, or your social betting, or, your social sports book. A lot of the, the verbiage, I think, is key when people, go to market. And so it's an interesting space, a lot of new innovations happening. But yes, lucky for us, we can operate in a lot of the bigger states that don't have existing sports books.
Cool. Awesome. Well, for the people listening, take a look at Kutt, spelled Kutt, of course, because how else would you spell it?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
There's only one way.
I've got the autocorrect on my phone now. That's how you know.
Nice.
It's fine. Sure. I'll be voice to text, and I say you need to cut that out, and it's spelling it the way I'd like to spell it. So,
nice.
You can go to kutt.com. That's Kutt, or you can search for us on the App Store. We're working on getting on Google Play, but we do have an Android version. You can just download it on kutt.com. And then all of our handles on social media are at KuttBet, KuttBet. So
there you go.
Shameless plug. There we go. Thanks for allowing me to pitch that.
Yeah, of course. Well, Sim, of course, anytime. You hail from the Palmetto State, I believe, is the
great state of South Carolina.
Wow,
yes,
that right. Okay, I didn't even look that up. But you're a Gamecocks fan. You're an SEC boy. Obviously, Swamp Kings came out this week. I saw so many reviews on Twitter today. I was trying to make my own review. I'm 2 episodes in. I kind of liked it, but everyone on Twitter is convincing me that it sucks and that no good sports documentaries have come out since The Last Dance, which I'm not going to argue with. But let's talk SEC, man. What do you think about Rattler and the Cox and the rest of the conference this year?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of being a South Carolina fan is that nothing can disappoint you any more than the Gamecocks. I mean, basically, I've lived my entire life with just a giant disappointment. For us this year, I think Vegas has our over/under win total at 6.5, which I swear to God has been our over/under win total for the last like 10 years, ever since Spurrier left. So again, not too high, not too low. We're just always kind of, hey, maybe make a bowl game, maybe not. Carolina specifically, yes, I call them Carolina. Our first game's against UNC, so the other Carolina. And I think that'll tell us a lot about where we are. You know, I think Spencer Rattler, he was extremely mediocre last year. I mean, he was the definition, the epitome of just kind of just average until the last 3 games. And I think we were talking before the stream started that if you have a team, the team always does something to bring you back in and get you excited again. Rattler had a tremendous final 3 games of the regular season, played really well against Notre Dame in the bowl game. And so for us, you know, this is our, you know, for Carolina fans, like right before the season starts is the pinnacle of our year every single year because we're 0-0 and you know, so far I haven't lost a game yet. But I think the thing about the SEC, and I mean, listen, I'm an SEC homer. I'm from South Carolina. We didn't have anything else growing up. No NFL teams. No one cares about the Panthers really. You know, Falcons, yes, maybe they get some fans, but for us, college football is king. And I think, as you mentioned, you know, about that Florida documentary, and a lot of these college towns, that's all they have, right? All these southern towns. So, you know, they always say it means more in the SEC, and I think it's just because that's all we have, right? You know, there's nothing else to do. So, yeah, I'm excited. I don't think Alabama's going to do it this year. I think Alabama's finally on their downswing. I think Georgia's become the Alabama. But question marks for Georgia, too. You know, they don't have a quarterback this year. Stetson's finally left, you know, at age, what, was he 29 years old? He finally left.
Did they have a quarterback last year?
Yeah.
And the year before? Did they need a quarterback?
Yeah. I mean, you know, and it's
funny.
Could
I step in and play quarterback tomorrow?
You know, I do think, and it's a good question because I mean, I do think that the SEC took the NFL route earlier than a lot of other conferences in the sense that they learned that you need to build out the defensive and offensive line, right? And then you plug and play. Now, obviously, you know, any team in the SEC or any team, if you're in the top 25, you have good individual players, you know, at these running back, wide receiver, quarterback positions. But I think the SEC a couple of years ago decided that they were going to kill the line of scrimmage on both sides. And they've used that as a recruiting tactic. And I think that has really allowed kind of that sustained success over time. You know, you think a lot of good defensive line, you know, on the Georgias and Alabamas of the world. Most of those guys go to the NFL. So
I actually do have an opinion about South Carolina, and probably one of the hottest takes you can get out there. And we're gonna see it in week 1. And Joey, we had a conversation about a guy that plays for Carolina.
I know where you're going.
I have a very, very strong take on Mr. Drake May. I believe that your guy, Rattler, is going to have a better year than Drake May. I almost promise it, and I do think you guys win week 1, and I think you win outright. I think Duke.
I think it is.
Or not Duke. I think North Carolina.
I was going to say I can't get too excited right now.
No.
Yeah, I would love that.
I'll talk about Duke in a second because that's one of my futures. But North Carolina, I am so down on. I took Phil Longo. I'm from Wisconsin. We took Phil Longo. That's ours. That's our toy maker right now. But you're going to learn something really quick if you are a South Carolina fan, because just up until September, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. And you get Tennessee and Georgia on the road.
Whoa.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's not easy.
It's going to be really, really tough. You're going to learn a lot about that team really quick, but it is a team. I was one of the people that jumped on that train late. I jumped on them a little bit early. I actually have a buddy that does some work. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the account Devin's Bookie. It's been a popular
picture of Devin Booker. Yeah.
Yep. So he does like admin stuff for them, and he's a big SC fan. I forgot to mention him before the show, but he coaxed me into a few early bets. Yeah, shout out Devin's Bookie. Crazy account. A lot of big winners. It's I think a Discord. I'm not sure how legit it is. Anyways, neither here nor there. I'm probably going to get yelled at, but I'm talking SC. I do actually really like the Gamecocks this year. 6.5 is plus 144. I looked at it on FanDuel. I have my list of, teams. I am looking at their schedule right now. it is a tough schedule.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's
why do you what Clemson at the end of the year is going to be just
that's South Carolina's issue is that all of our permanent rivals are historically they've been good teams.
Really fucking good.
I mean, and I was going to say not just decent teams, but like Clemson, perennial top 10, Georgia, perennial top 10. And then, occasionally, with the interconference stuff, when we do get a West team, it's like, oh, congrats, you got Texas A&M when they're good,
Exactly. Yeah, when they're good.
Now, I will say this. I mean, just to kind of talk about SEC. Now, Georgia has done a good job of capitalizing on a weak SEC East, right? I mean, obviously, they're a good team, but make no mistake, like the rest of the SEC East is just not good. Now, Tennessee is getting better.
It's the Big Ten West.
Yeah,
I mean, Big Ten West. I'm a Wisconsin fan. That's literally what we've done in the Big Ten West.
Exactly. And so what happens is, you have one side that cannibalizes each other, and then the other side, in our case, the SEC East, Georgia currently, they get through the season fairly unscathed, right? You got your Kentuckys and Vanderbilts of the world that don't put up much of a test. Maybe the Tennessee game is good, and occasionally South Carolina pulls something out of our ass. But, when you got LSU, who's gotten a lot better, I guess with Brian Kelly, you have the Auburns, Texas A&Ms of the world. For Alabama, that is a bit more of a toss-up. But I think, the fortunate or unfortunate part for Georgia is that they can kind of waltz through the SEC East, depending on what side what side of fan you are. So,
what's your take on Georgia? Yeah. I mean, is that a team that is that a fan base that? And here, let's bridge the gap. We're going to talk SEC. Let's talk it as a whole. You mentioned before we got on, you were probably a daily checker of the SEC fan boards. You're in your 30s now, but maybe in your 20s. Talk a little bit. I want to hear you expand. What is some of the craziest shit you've seen on those fan boards?
Yeah, I went from 60 minutes a day to 20 minutes a day, right? One of my favorite accounts on Twitter and Instagram is Message Board Geniuses. I don't know if y'all have seen that or not. But they had one recently. And basically, they just take screenshots of, what's going on the message boards. And they had one recently. And it's, most of them are just making fun of people on here on the different message boards. They had one for Georgia. And the best part was you couldn't tell if it was real or not. And that's how it's really good. These are really rabid fans. But the person asked if they even needed to go to church anymore because they needed to focus on their football, right? And Georgia fans, I mean, SEC fans in general, I think are maybe a bit more rabid than others, but Georgia fans are the worst. I mean, they're absolutely, I've been to many Georgia games, Georgia, South Carolina games, and, they'll have people bark at you. You want to be like, hey, man, like this, it's serious, but not that serious. And it's a bit weird, if you ask me. And
the only thing I've ever experienced, so Wisconsin played LSU at Lambeau Field. And I've never seen that many motorhomes in one location. The way those boys tailgate. We tailgate, don't get me wrong. We tailgate like a motherfucker up in Wisconsin. We know how to tailgate. We don't have the money tailgate side of things that I experienced when LSU came north. The SEC does it, and they do it huge, and they do it expensive.
Again, you got to think about it. Like in the South, there's absolutely nothing else to do, right? So it's like when you're going to put your money towards something, where are you going to put it towards? And a lot of people put it towards football. When they say it's a religion, it truly is for a lot of people. I know growing up, obviously Clemson, South Carolina's rival. I've got a couple buddies that are Clemson fans, but like that week, it gets quite tense, and it's not even, you're not just saying that, you get in arguments and things can get a little personal, a little heated. And so, I mean, obviously, that's fan bases anywhere, right? But the SEC does take it to another level. I think I saw something recently. Some Michigan recruit, he went up there for like an unofficial or an official visit, and he took a picture of his plate of food, right? And he was at this visit, and it was just the saddest plate of food in the world. And then like every SEC fan just started taking pictures of like, oh, we had a full blown buffet. We had catering, from 17 different barbecue joints right around the corner. And they're like, it just means more, right? So I mean, SEC fans, I think most of them quite polite, but the problem with SEC fans is when you get good, then they turn annoying, right? And I think that's that's why there's been a lot of anti-SEC sentiment recently, because it's just like, all right, it's just not fun anymore because the SEC fans need to be humbled. So
right, but
it's also always best, for a Carolina fan like myself, I can just say I'm an SEC fan and root for Bama.
Yeah,
always worked out well.
Do that. Can always do that, but I think it's a pretty exciting season for them. I mean, or for the conference, of course, it is every year. But as you said, Bama might not finish on top, maybe not Georgia, but it could be Tennessee's year. Joe Milton is pretty up there in the Heisman rankings. I know,
90 yards,
90 yards plus 1,800 right now. There's vets like KJ Jefferson at Arkansas, and then Daniels, I know from LSU, he's getting a lot of love. So there are these, LSU's, they've been a powerhouse for a little bit now, but Tennessee's kind of coming back into the mix. Maybe Auburn will with their new coach. What do you think about, maybe these quote unquote sleeper teams? I want to call them sleeper teams, but you know what I'm trying to say here.
I'm trying to pull up some futures right now. Of course, as soon as I try to do this, I can't find it. I mean, again, I think the SEC West is wide open, right? I mean, I think obviously Alabama just they get more 5 stars, whatever, but they don't have a quarterback right now, right? At least not that's set in stone, not one they feel good about. Brian Kelly surprised the hell out of me last year. From a cultural fit, if nothing else,
definitely. That's what I was thinking at first too.
That he went down to LSU, right? And I was like, how's this going to work? That's just not going to, you take this guy that was at Notre Dame to walk into some, middle of nowhere towns in Louisiana and try to relate to those kids. It just
hilariously, by the way.
I was going to say it. I think it was
Southern accent. He sounded like you just like 2 months after going from South Bend down to Louisiana. He sounded like Sim with the little Southern drawl on it.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff out of
he was skewered for that. And the best part is I just feel like he owned it. And he just said, you know what?
Oh.
And he backed it up, and LSU had a good year last year. And so
when you got the bag, it's hard to make stuff like that bother you.
Right. But see, and that's the thing, is that these guys, these coaches getting paid so much now, right? That you're expected to perform, and then they can take that and with NIL money now, right? It's just like whoever you can find the players, and if you can find the players, you pay the players. And I feel like, I don't know, I'd be interested to hear y'all's take. Do you think that NIL has evened the playing field, or do you think the rich have gotten richer?
Joey, I'll let you go first.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here, man.
It just because, like, I know in the SEC, it's you have your stud teams. You got your Alabamas and Georgias, but now even the guys like Carolina, we got a 5-star last year for the first time in years.
Yeah,
and they said it was NIL money. So
yeah,
was it not?
I mean, it's definitely shaking things up. I don't know how much of an impact it had, but I think in a few years we'll be able to tell a little bit more. Of course, it's still pretty early on in the NIL world, but these 18-year-old kids are making a fuck ton of money. Speaking of LSU, Livy Dunn, shit, look at her.
I know. Yeah, I think maybe their top 3 NIL are all female athletes. There's a guy,
right? Yeah.
Angel Reese
Sue, yep. I saw something on that or about that on Twitter. It's obviously shaking things up. I don't know how to quantify it or whatever. I'm not really trying to look into that right now, but it'll be interesting to see things like in a few years with all the movement of the conferences and everything too. Maybe not even within a few years, maybe like 1 year, 2 years. This year. So that's my take for now. But
for me, NIL, has it even the playing field? Obviously not. The SEC's won the national championship over and over again. And when you're seeing other conferences absorb teams and you're watching the SEC not absorb teams, it's because they still feel like they're getting the best players in the country, and they are. I mean, they are. You're getting the Texases of the world. The USCs are coming back. You're leveling the playing field, in my opinion, for and it's not obviously blue bloods because it's not basketball, but the blue bloods of football are all kind of coming back into this. I mean, you'll see, and we'll talk Penn State next week. Penn State's another team that I do think there's some NIL there. Also, it's good coaching. But, I mean, in the Big Ten, there's only a few teams. Wisconsin's one of them that we're finally opening up the NIL, and you're seeing guys transfer.
Yeah,
right. And it's all coach-related. If your coach buys in, you're in. Dabo from Clemson's not playing the portal like other people are. And I also think that we got to talk about two different things. The NIL is one thing. The portal, being able to transfer freely is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Getting paid and being able to not have to sit, guys are going to look at that completely differently. If I'm a, middle of the road to above average player, I'm not looking to get a bag. I'm looking to play. And I'm looking to play for a good team, and I'm looking to play next year. I personally think that the portal changed things more than the NIL did. The NIL kind of just brought it to, hey, the Florida States of the world are going to wave money around and become relevant again. The USCs are going to, granted, but it doesn't matter. If you got the biggest coach, USC was going to be coming back anyways with Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I mean,
as long as the portal's available, guys are going to transfer to come play for Lincoln Riley.
Right.
Even if the money's there, if the money's not there, and the money's always been there. Let's not act like the money's new. I mean, the money's been under the table for decades. But I do think it's just,
you're saying 18-year-old kids in the 2000s and 2010s driving Lambos around campus?
Hummer H2s, Daddy. Hummer H2s.
Yeah. Was it all oil money, like Johnny Manziel? Was it
right? Yeah, no. All their dads had oil money. Some of them were sultans of faraway lands, but no. Right. I mean, it's always been this way. If anything has done any leveling of the playing field, it's probably the portal versus anything. But it doesn't feel like it because we haven't had a team that's completely cultivated a team completely from the portal. Yeah. Like Florida State is trying to do right now. They've gotten a lot of really good guys this offseason. Notre Dame trying to do it with Sam Hartman. It's kind of hard to see, but to me, the portal does it more than the NIL does it.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because Sim, when you asked me, I was kind of like, oh shit, I guess give it a few years to see how everything with the NIL plays out. But I think I'm kind of more invested in how the portal is working. Guys, as a Penn State fan, I've seen guys come in, like guys go out, but it's, I'm definitely more, following that a little bit closer. It's shaking everything up, man. It's a crazy landscape right now, the whole college football world.
Well, I mean, as you said, okay, a second ago, like, if you don't have to sit out a year, why not go somewhere you're going to play, right? I think one of the first things that I would, if I'm a player, and I'm not saying this is the right way to think about it, but, I see this happen. They say, hey, can you guarantee me a starting job? If so, where do I sign, right? Which, to your point, I think that is felt more immediately, right? It's quicker. It's the impact, is more immediate than giving a kid, 18-year-old kid all this money and then, maybe they contribute in a year or two. But that has always been my question is like, how does Alabama continue to recruit 5-star after 5-star after 5-star when these guys know that they have a much smaller chance of playing immediately than they would if they went to a, tier 2 school or tier 3 school like South Carolina, right?
That's how you keep getting the right kids.
Yeah,
if you want, and one of the things, I know you haven't seen it yet, but Swamp Kings, one of the biggest things that it covers is Urban Meyer said we're bringing in our guys. And guys that don't want to be here, they're getting the fuck out and they're not going to be part of the team. And I think the SEC, more than any other conference, has no problem saying goodbye to you because they know they have at least the teams on the top, the LSUs, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Floridas. They know that there is another guy waiting. Right. There is another kid that's a 5-star that we're going to bring in, or we're going to hit the transfer portal hard, and we're going to bring in 2 guys. I don't give a shit that you're disgruntled. That doesn't bother me anymore. As a coach, hey, you don't want to buy in here? Great. See ya. There's the door. The NCAA has built you a beautiful pearly door you can walk your ass through, and you can completely move and go to a different team. And coming from somebody, so in high school, it's crazy. And I don't think I've ever told this story publicly to other than a few other people. I had a really good sophomore season at a small private school. And going into that junior season, there was a very large in Wisconsin, a Division I school that was local that had contacted me about transferring. But in Wisconsin, you sit. You sit and you do not play that year. To me, losing 1 out of my 4 years of high school football wasn't even like something I was going to consider. So I would imagine that these guys, unless you're a guy that's thinking, all right, I'm going to the NFL no matter what, I don't think there's as many NFL guys in the transfer portal as we think. I think there's a lot more guys that are, whether obviously there are a billion other outlets that you can go to now for NFL versus XFL versus USFL. But I don't think we've seen the portal work. Obviously, Caleb Williams is the number one that everybody's going to look at because he did. But we're going to talk. Yeah. We're going to talk USC about this weekend's game. I'm not sure. I got him to win the Pac-12 because I don't think highly of the Pac-12. But I don't think he's gonna. I don't think USC is gonna be that much better than they were a year ago. I just think the Pac-12 is super down. But neither here nor there. I got a little bit off topic there. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a complete encapsulation. The SEC. We can talk portal. We can talk NIL. And there's only a few. I mean, we can't have that conversation in the ACC. That's the number one difference. Yeah. We're not having that conversation in the Pac-12. We're talking about can we keep the Pac-12 alive. In the Big 12, the portal's not a huge deal. In the Big 10, not really. We're more worried about what teams we're going to go get. The SEC is like, yeah, we're going to take everybody else's talent, though. Everybody else is like mid-major talent. It's all coming here. And, yeah, the SEC's got it right, man. You're in a really, really, really dominant conference, and I don't think it's really all that close.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. It's worked out well for the last, 15 years, I guess. But the ultimate, and people finally started pointing this out, like the best part about the SEC, it's really the same, 2 or 3 schools, right, that have been successful. Right. Everyone in the SEC is a, bandwagon Alabama fan when they play the Ohio States or Notre Dames of the world. And it gives us something to feel good about. But then it's like, come National Signing Day, when you look down the list and it's, oh yeah, South Carolina's a top 15 class, but we're 13th in the SEC. Like, you start to get a bit dejected. So, for me, and I think a lot of SEC fans feel this way, we're tired of Alabama. It was fun for a while because they were good. They were beating the shit out of everybody. We could, scream, SEC, Southern pride, whatever. But at this point, we're kind of over it, and I think Georgia's kind of taken over that mantle, and now Georgia's annoying. At least Alabama fans, I think most people in the South at least can agree that Alabama fans are decent people. I don't know if we could all say the same thing about Georgia fans, but that's what makes it.
There's been a lot of Georgia hate tonight, but I
do feel that permeating. Hey, Joey, quick question for you, friend. Yeah. Now, us Big Teners. Now, when Ohio State's in the national championship, are we rooting for Ohio State? I don't feel that pride, Joey.
I don't either.
I don't feel it at all.
I don't think I would pull
you
for
guys
Michigan.
Feel that pride. We don't.
My answer for this podcast would be I'm pulling for whoever my money is on.
Oh, W.
Right. That's the answer.
I take it back. I could be the biggest.
We have to say that as
if the money's right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So whether it's the first
half under, slut to the odds.
Total under Georgia the past 2 years, I will say. If you just took whoever they were playing, their team total, the opponent's team total under, I think it was incredibly profitable. I don't know how, but it was.
Georgia's defense the last couple of years has just been obscene, and everyone makes a joke now, like, what, the Philadelphia Bulldogs or, the Georgia Eagles. Philly's taking that. They said, you know what, screw this. We're just going to start taking.
Dude, the Packers did the same thing. We took Quay Walker, Devondre Wyatt, and Eric Stokes with our first round picks the last 3 years, and they're all developing quite well. Right. The Georgia knows how to do it. Crazy how that works.
Yeah.
Well, but so like as an example, last year for the TCU Georgia game, I was that guy in the bar, just like, come on, one more touchdown, do it, make them hurt,
That was an embarrassment.
What was it? That was 50, 60 something to 7. I was just like, So I think again in the SEC, the final thing I'll say is we have nothing else, right? People make fun of us for everything, education, obesity, life expectancy, all this stuff. So we got college football, right?
Man.
So let us enjoy something.
The drunkest state in the
put them on blast.
Wisconsin's the drunkest state in the country. That's what
I'm halfway through my bottle of bourbon, man. I'm doing well.
Case in point, there you go. But yeah, it's should be an exciting year for them. I'm just looking at some Heisman odds. Joe Milton's plus 1,800. Jaden Daniels is plus 990.
Second overall, I think, behind Caleb Williams.
Let me just check. So Caleb Williams is plus 450. Jaden Daniels currently plus 990. Jordan Travis also plus 990. So I know Jordan Travis is ACC at Florida State, but Florida is a Southern state. So we can talk about him on this episode. Those are the top three, I think. I'm just going to do one more scroll. Those are the top three I'm seeing. So pretty interesting.
That's what I got too on mine.
Yeah. And
that's interesting though. They got Carson Beck. So that's Georgia's QB. They got him. Plus, I mean, the kid's never played a snap in his life. I mean, he's probably played some snaps, but I guess they assume it's a plug and play system. I don't know. So I know this is not SEC and not to change the topic, but I do have to say another Southern school that I'm super high on this year, and I'm starting to see a lot of other people pick them. So this is probably my reason to not.
Don't hurt my feelings. God damn it!
It's Texas. I see a lot of people are starting to hop on the Texas bandwagon. It makes. I think it makes sense just because of kind of what we didn't talk about a second ago, or what we talked about, cannibalization in the SEC. I mean, Texas, they play Alabama. Whether they win or lose, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't affect their path to the championship. You go to Big Ten, you got Michigan, Ohio State. That usually cannibalizes each other. So maybe Pac-12, I guess. Southern Cal doesn't play anyone, but I think Texas could make that similar argument to say that they've got a decently good team and a decently easy path to make the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, it's anyone's game. So, okay, did I take your college football future?
No, not a future. I hate Texas. My fiance just asked if I'm okay.
Okay.
She's like, "Are you all right down there?" Yeah, I'm good. Don't worry about me. Just bitching about Texas.
But the other thing is, yeah. I'm surprised you didn't take a shot after that one. But the other thing is, like, Texas
coming for Texas.
I mean, Texas has something to prove too. I think they in Oklahoma hear a lot of shit talk from SEC fans, like, "Oh, we don't need y'all. You're not going to add anything to the conference." And I think they have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. So we'll see. But it's a trendy pick right now. In the last 3 days, I've seen three people, three national pundits say Texas is their pick. I think right now they're plus 1,700 at the site that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think something around there. They're somewhat. They're 11th preseason seed, number 11, I think. And I just saw. I know I keep going back to the Heisman odds, but Quinn is plus 1080, so he's right behind those other three guys I just mentioned before.
And even
see how this season goes.
Yeah, and even last year, I mean, Texas wasn't great last year, and they still took Alabama down to the wire. So
that was a wild game. That was one of the crazier games of the season, I will say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, I not to hop off our SEC train, but I do think that when you look at the you got kind of the tier one people, the usual suspects, and then I think Texas is trying to slip in there along with Southern Cal. So,
I mean, we might as well start including Texas in our SEC talk, right?
I was going to say
we're only a year early.
It's technically next year, but I think the first game or the second game of the season, I think it is against Bama. They did the same last year. I think that's a good little preview for everyone, of what's to come. So I think it was a pretty low scoring game last year. It's weeks away, but that's going to be a fucking dogfight. So, wow.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Crazy, man. Is Texas back?
Texas Alabama was, I think, 9.5 Crimson Tide for week 2, which I think is a look headline. But
yeah.
It's 7. I think it's 7.
Okay, so I've got a question for the two of you. I mean,
Texas,
by the way,
back. Nobody's answered my question. Is Texas back?
Oh,
Texas
is he back? Are they back?
No.
Yeah,
never back.
I don't.
They gotta do something ahead of them. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but I feel like Texas just needs to do something. win something.
Yeah.
Before they're
what,
back. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're definitely back with us talking about them, but they got to win something, right?
I mean, are we talking about coming back from like the Vince Young years, or like what are they coming back?
It's a very broad statement, and that's why I think we love it so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Texas back. We get it.
I mean, Sarkisian, the drunk himself. I think
Sark is my hero.
Coach. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a decent coach. I think he could lead that team to 10-year highs. But yeah, to O'Kane's point, like I don't think until they win something meaningful, meaning call it a playoff game. I don't
call it a conference title.
Yeah, I just had to bring in the Twitter question of, is Texas back? Every year you see it. You see the posts of their players saying it or their fans saying it, and I'm just like, whatever. Well, what are they coming back from? Is it the Vince Young era? Is it the Colt McCoy era?
Yeah,
Colt McCoy, low key cold as hell. I did not realize how good he was.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's time for, now that we're talking about we're looking ahead and we're talking about like week 2.
We should probably talk about week 0.
Good segue.
Do y'all like the fact that it's called week 0?
Yes, I think we should talk about that first. Why the fuck are we still calling this week 0? We've been doing it for what, 3 years?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't remember it being a thing before.
Yeah, it's and now in March Madness, the first 4 games, this is the round of whatever. It's like
round of 68.
Round of 68. Miss me with that. Yeah. It's all about inclusion too, which is just disappointing. We don't need to. Well, round of 68 is about inclusion. I still don't know why week 0 exists. But, Joey, that's a really good thing because I've got a lot of comments on week 0. I've got bets on every single game except for one. Before we do that.
I'm not shocked.
Thank you. We had my props were posted, or my season props were posted. For those of you that didn't see it on my Instagram, I actually would like to get some feedback from you guys on these because one of them completely goes against everything that I'm going to go for one of my bets this week. But the first one is one that Kutt, I know you're a big Kutt Sim. That's funny. Single syllable is not easy. That'd be really funny if you just started going by Kutt. Anyways, Colorado, probably one of the most polarizing stories of college football. They're on my card at 3.5 wins at plus 120. Do you believe in the Deion hype?
Do I believe in the hype? Do I think Deion's a good coach? Yes. Do I think Deion will have a successful career as a coach? Yes, because he can recruit. I mean, in college, that's the name of the game. They asked Bobby Bowden one time, they're like, would you rather be, is it because you're a good coach or, is it because you have talented players? And he said, oh, that's a stupid question. And the announcer was like, oh, because you're a good coach, right? He's like, no, it has nothing to do with coaching. He's like, if you have better players in college, you're going to win. I've always kind of, agreed with that. Maybe not. But I think Deion is a good enough coach and he's a hell of a recruiter that he can work. Now, how long is it going to take? That's another question. 3.5 wins seems attainable, right? I mean, that just, you win a couple, especially in a defeated conference like they have. But I also think it's interesting about, he's made a lot of comments that I think have rubbed the existing players the wrong way at Colorado. So I still don't know what the culture's like at Colorado right now. I think it's going to take a year and a half for him to get his players in the system because he's already tried to do that, right? They had a mass exit, a mass influx of transfers. But, does that translate to wins and a good culture? I don't know. But 3.5, I mean, I feel like that would be a doable, very doable.
You would hope so. You would hope so for all the hype they're getting. If they win 3 games, they are going to be dog walked on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to be leading the charge, unfortunately, with a losing ticket if they get under 3.5. But my other ones that I do have, Duke Blue Devils over 6.5 wins. I am big on Duke. The ACC, funny. Almost everybody has 6.5 wins. I think the SEC, we were talking about that too. I think college football odds are getting lazy. Everybody's got 6.5 as their win total. Plus money on that at 125. USC to win the Pac-12 plus 150. And then I like Penix Jr. out of Washington and Braylon Allen to win the Heisman. Penix Jr. plus 1450. Braylon Allen, my boy, plus 6,500. Just had to mention those before we get in it. I heard I have an insider at Wisconsin. Shout out Billy. Billy will actually be on the pod at some point. He does the Green Bay Packer post-game show, so he's quite busy. But we were talking about Wisconsin's offense. It's going to be very funny. We'll talk about it more next week, but apparently they're doing like full-blown spread them out and then like the clap cadence and everything you'd expect a spread team to do. I told him I'm going to be so erect when they walk out in 2x2 week 1 against Buffalo. And then we pound it down the middle for like 50 rushes because apparently that's all we do is hand it off when we're 4 wide. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm so excited, but that's neither here nor there. I do like Braylon Allen as a long shot Heisman because he's really fucking good and he's definitely leaving after next year. But I do want to talk week 0, fellas. I don't know. Have either of you gotten any action down in week 0 yet?
No, but I was pretty close earlier. I'm, maturing in my ways. Like past few years, I feel like my answer would be yes, but now I'm like, I'll do a little bit more analysis. Like I don't want to overanalyze anything, but the only game not the only game, but I'm going to start things off with the 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, Notre Dame Navy game. Obviously, it's in Dublin. Obviously, Notre Dame, year 2 under Freeman. Harmon transfer coming in. Pretty cool team, I think, going into this year. They're playing in Dublin. I looked up to see what some people were saying on the good old Twitter sphere, and a couple people were like, "Oh, jet lag is going to get to them in Navy." But I don't think that's. I know I said on last week's pod, I do factor in travel into my analysis, but I think they've been there, like they're kind of used to the time change and everything. So that's my take at least, but it's a 20.5 point spread. I think the total's lurking right around 50 or 51. I don't know much about Navy, but I do think that Notre Dame finished. I think they had a really good second half of the year last year with the new coach. So I do think they take a really big step forward, especially with Hartman, who is a Heisman hopeful. I'll go back to the Heisman odds in a second now because that's what I keep doing on this podcast. Where is Hartman? Okay. Anyway, he's plus 1,800, but I think Notre Dame will cover the spread. I don't know about the total, and I'll pass it on to you guys because that's the only game I've really looked at. I think that's the only game worth looking at for now.
Sam, what do you like?
Yeah. By the way, I'm sorry I got into a cave. I know I look like a ghost right now.
Yeah, all good.
That'll happen.
Yeah, I guess it got dark outside. I didn't have the lights on. Anyway, so if you play this back, people will laugh. But it's funny you mention that, Joe, because like the thing with these games, like a game in London or Dublin or wherever it may be, like right. it has a feel of a gimmick game for us, but I think these guys play football, right? But I think for them, they get you talk about travel and stuff, like they get excited. It's the first game that you played in a new country. Like I think
Notre Dame playing in Ireland.
Right? Yeah, it's like back to the motherland, right?
Yeah.
So I think that these guys, like, they get up for games like this, even if we look at it as a bit of a gimmick. That's honestly, and I'll say this, since I have started, operating Kutt. How do I say this? I have never watched less football in my life, or any sports for that matter, just because it feels like work at a certain point, right? So yeah. I usually don't look at games until a couple of days before, but I have looked at that game. Navy, obviously, as long as they're running a triple option, they're always going to be tough. South Carolina used to schedule these triple option teams every year, final game, like second to last game of the season. And you could just feel the collective heart stop when we have to, defend against that. So I think it's always going to be an issue. But everything that I've read on this, and by the way, I'm looking at notes right now that I can put up. Everything I've read just says take the over, take the total. Just because these are teams that are just like, all right, Navy's going to run the ball, they're going to score points just because they're rushing, just because it's a gimmick offense. And Notre Dame, with Sam Hartman, and I think Marcus Freeman again has something to prove, like so many other coaches do. I think they'll put up points too. So. Yeah, I think that offense always in the college game. I think offense always excels in early games in the season.
I love that you said that. I think the same exact way. I think very highly of Notre Dame. The past 4 times these teams have faced each other, Notre Dame 35-34, 52-44. Last year, 35-32 thriller. Irish win it. Talked about Sam Hartman leading the era, or leading the team, probably the best quarterback they've had since Brady Quinn, which is crazy. Their defense sucks. They were 130th in the red zone last year. They lose 3 guys up front. It's going to be a very weakened back end as far as Notre Dame goes. I'm very high on the Irish overall this season, but to me, I'm with you, Sim. It's the over. To me, it's the over. Both of these teams. It opened at 48.5. It's up to 50.5, over 50 now. That's smart money moving that line. Navy, it does now, as much as we talked about the triple option, Navy does have a new offensive coordinator.
Oh, do they? Okay, see that probably tells you I need to know about my
well, don't get me wrong. Don't worry.
My analysis of it.
It's don't worry, because it's Kennesaw. So Kennesaw also ran the triple option. I went back and I looked at Kennesaw. I was like, interesting. New offensive coordinator. What does Grant Chestnut do? Grant Chestnut runs the triple option, but he also throws the ball. He throws the ball like almost 20 times a game. So I do think we're going to see a little bit of a Navy switch. I don't think we really have film on them yet. I do think 50.5 is very low. I think this is a game that Notre Dame does really, really well. I think they win by a decent margin. Do they cover 20.5? I hope so. I think Notre Dame is going to have a very good season, but I do like the over at 50.5. Looking at our next game, UTEP and Jacksonville State. I don't have much of an opinion on this one. Rich Rod, good old Rich Rod. For those of us in the Big Ten, we remember his time at Michigan. It's time for Jacksonville State. They're moving to Division I single A. Sorry, I can't say that anymore. It's F. They're moving from FBS to FCS. No, sorry, FCS to FBS. I hate it all. I hate every single bit of it. But this is actually a good team. The Cocks are pretty good. I'm not going to bet on it, but as far as like emotions go, you're moving up a level. You were 9-2 last year, won the Atlantic Sun, and now you're in the Conference USA. You get UTEP, who wasn't great last year. I think from an emotional standpoint, if you want to make a bet, you probably take the team that's moving to a higher level. But that's just my opinion. Vegas only has UTEP as a 1-point favorite. I take that just on emotion.
I like it, and I would.
Anybody can take that. That's not a great. Way to bet, but
I don't know shit about either team.
I don't have any action on
it. Well,
I'm going to listen to you.
The Gamecocks. So, yeah, go ahead.
Of course. Cock pride.
Yeah,
but something I do actually
Cocks stick together.
Yeah, Cocks stick together. They fly the flock. I do have a parlay that should be interesting. UMass plays New Mexico State. UMass is now, and for those of us that even lightly watch college football, UMass has been one of the number 1 traffic cones in all of Division I over the last few years. I'm talking 1-11 back-to-back seasons. The Minutemen have not won a road game since Halloween of 2018. Your boy was a bartender drinking 4 Locos, pre-aiming to go to the bars that night. This is ridiculous.
The Wisconsin way.
Yeah, of course. Ridiculous team in UMass. The fact that we can even use New Mexico State as a parlay piece, crazy to me. They've got Diego Pavia, who's actually pretty fun quarterback to watch if you ever seen him. He's got 4 of his 5 targets back. This is a 23-13 finish at UMass last season. They're not going to win this game. New Mexico State on the first leg. Second leg, we're going to fade Florida International. Florida International is an 11-point underdog against Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech gets an interesting gentleman by the name of Hank Bachmeier. Anybody remember that guy?
No, I don't know who the fuck that is, man.
Exactly. Boise State quarterback over the last few seasons. Hank Bachmeier. He's had over 6,000 yards, 44 touchdowns, and then he's going to be throwing to absolute legend Smoke Harris. Smoke Harris, for those of you that don't know, 2,200 yards in his career. He's found the end zone 21 times. Not to mention he averages over 11 yards per punt return. The dude's absolute electricity. Defensively, they suck. They were not very good last year. Their offense couldn't even quite muster 20 points per game. I'm talking about Florida International. Not a good team. I think that's an easy parlay. Got a unit and a quarter on it. I don't know if anybody's even looked at these games because, let's be honest, as cool as it is to bet week 0, I was looking at fucking New Mexico State previews, reading New Mexico State.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you if you had any prompting for this, or if you did all of this research yourself. Because if it was yourself, that's impressive.
Sim, this is why when he, sorry to cut in, but Sim, when he was like, "Yeah, we should start a podcast," I was like, "Absolutely," because I know how much of an animal he is and how much of a degen, with all due respect, he is with this shit. I mean,
I'm
not researching New Mexico State football ever.
Yeah,
but
I mean, we got ESPN right here.
College basketball put me on a fucking terrible bender of like small conferences, and I realized that if you bet the small conferences, you actually have a better margin of victory because, let's be honest, nobody really knows those conferences that well, so they're not handicapping them that well. Shout out Ben Carey. Ben Carey actually put me onto that a long time ago, and he actually mentioned it when we interviewed him, and I deleted the whole recording, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, man, I do way too much research probably, but I give a shit about my money. That's kind of the end of the day. I'm not here to lose money gambling. It's one of those things. And talking about not losing money gambling, something I never lose money gambling. Joey, you know this. Maction.
Good old
Maction. I will put myself up against anybody in the country. And Mac analysis for gambling, not for total, because there are totally some guys that are Mac fucking knuckleheads that I do love them and I read all their shit.
Oh yeah.
But this is a conference. Ohio is playing San Diego State. If you guys want something plus chicken on Saturday, San Diego State's got a lot of hype. Ohio money line. There's a guy. Last name is Rourke. For those of you that watch the MAC, you know his brother Nathan. Led the Bobcats 2017 and 2019. Great dude. Not a great winner. His brother. Now, we're talking about the Rourke name is one you can't just follow up. And his brother did just that. 3,500 multi-purpose yards last year, 30 scores, MAC Offensive Player of the Year, and the motherfucker didn't transfer. He did tear his ACL last year. Probably can't transfer if you have a torn ACL, but I love this. I got plus 124 on Bet Openly. Shout out more peer-to-peer shit. They are a team, Ohio, I'm very high on. You can get them to win the MAC right now. It is one of my favorite teams. Let me get this shit up. Good old FanDuel.
Joe, you like how he just did that in front of me? He just went with the other peer-to-peer instead
of
God, pull the knife
out. Oh, dude, don't worry. We only bet peer-to-peer in this podcast. We do every single one, whether it be
peer-to-peer podcast,
Bet Openly, Sport Trade. But that's the one thing. Well, I looked this up. The cool thing I think of between your three like kind of platforms, to me, you guys are, whoops, sorry if that was loud. You guys are like just the social, like buddies setting something up. I want to do it this way. Even like, cause you guys branch out to past sports, which I think that's where the money factor is. Cause I can't tell you how many times we had our fantasy football draft last weekend. I could have set up probably 20 bets from the dumb shit we were doing.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's the perfect niche that you guys have. Bet Openly is kind of your common everyday degenerate. I still probably couldn't figure out Sport Trade. I'm not much of a finance guy. I will not lie. It's a tough one, but
Sim has the Republican debate on there tonight. I saw.
What?
Oh, yeah. Did I? Yeah, I had something.
I think I saw a tweet earlier from you.
Oh. Yeah, we also have we have not to get political because
of
I would
course
never
not.
get political.
Never, not in the sports
only
world.
times we get political is when we bet on politics.
Yeah, I was going to say, but
correct.
you can,
College football is
for
political
instance,
as I get.
we had a guy the other day on Twitter. He was like, "Hey man, can you put up Trump's weight if he does get booked?" And so we were like, "Sure, we'll put that up." Next thing I know, we had like 10 people bet on it. I was like, "That's great," you know. So
shit.
anyway,
Clip that.
no, but getting. Hey, that was not political. I like to bet.
No. That's
your platform. That's your platform, man.
But
that's exactly that's the weirdo like market you got to find is things like that.
Whatever. Yeah.
But
I think Bet Openly is currently doing the Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg odds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many weird things you can bet on in the world. That's the one thing I think gambling taught me early was like you can bet on almost anything.
Yeah.
Like if you watch Survivor, if you watch The Bachelor, all those have odds.
There's pools, there's all kinds of shit for those shows too. Yeah.
It's crazy.
But
I just wanted to talk two more things. Last two, I've got Vanderbilt laying the points against Hawaii. I ate the garbage last season. Timmy Chang. Do you guys remember Timmy Chang?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Timmy Chang is like your guys' area. I'm a few years younger than you guys, so I was like more Colt Brennan.
I'm kind of in the middle.
You hear that? We're the old ones, is what he's saying.
Yeah, of course.
I'm
old,
the middle here.
maybe it's me. I'm 30 plus, so yes.
Ooh, yes, 30 plus. Very old. Start making it hurt soon. But
to after me, 30, everything's just 30 plus. Yeah. But yes, Timmy Chang. I do remember when Timmy Chang was a star Rainbow Warrior. I do remember that.
Yes, he was. And now he's the coach. And last year I went on my program at the time and said, dude, Hawaii's coming back. It's Timmy Chang. They didn't. They're so bad. Hawaii's so bad. And Vanderbilt actually is kind of worth shit. They were a field goal against Missouri shy of going to a bowl game last year, and they return everybody. It's the best passing attack. I read it's the best passing attack since Jay Cutler. And if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does.
Smoking Jay.
Jay.
Vandy
is so Vandy's name at Vanderbilt because did you guys both see like a week or two ago?
I did. They do not have a field. I think they're playing this at Vanderbilt. I have not. So, Joey, I'm so happy you brought this up because I did forget. I'm going to post it on our socials. The Vanderbilt football field is just not finished.
It's not done. It's not.
It's completely not done.
Yeah.
It's just not. So
it didn't look – it looked like it was just demolished or something.
It was terrible.
It didn't look like it was, the
it
project
looked like they didn't break ground until like late June.
It's almost like they don't care about football at Vandy. You know?
No way.
I mean, athletics there, but I will say this about coming from an SEC fan. Everyone laughs at Vanderbilt until the week you have to play them. Because if you ever see any of these, people put this on social media all the time, the win streaks versus Vanderbilt. It's like South Carolina won 15.
I've seen like the whole list.
Right. Florida has won, whatever it was at the time, 20 something in a row. Kentucky's won this many. And every year that number creeps higher and higher, you're like, it's due. Yeah. It's just due. It's like not that Vanderbilt's good, but they always pull one out of their ass every year that you're just, causes you a sleepless night or two.
Shit.
But Joey, going back to what you were saying earlier, we're talking about travel and flights and stuff. I've always thought that Hawaii for away games is just at such a disadvantage because it's not both teams going, right? It's they have to hop on a plane, especially with all that's happened, on their island, the last couple of weeks. They have to hop on a plane and they have, go halfway across the country, not even across
halfway
the country,
across
the world, right? So I mean that's got to take a little out of you. And unlike London, with both or Dublin, both teams are going to Dublin. This is one-sided. So, I would take Vandy hard on this game if I had to. But then see that's my bias showing through. Got to.
Is the Lock Talk episode 4 squad ride going to be Vandy minus 17.5?
I think it needs to be Vandy minus 17.5. But I need to shout out at Vandy Tracker. on Twitter. I'm sure one of the very faithful Vanderbilt accounts out there. Laugh about the stadium. Laugh about our past. Let's see who's laughing on the field.
Woo!
Very strong
well
words
said.
from @Vandy Tracker.
Vandy
All
Tracker.
2,900 of his followers.
Undefeated
Galvanized.
Vanderbilt Commodores in all caps.
Hey, listen. I can say this again as a fellow SEC fan of a mediocre team. Like, I'm your brother. It's like we need someone else to shit on, But I root for Vandy anytime they're not playing South Carolina. But Vandy Tracker, I'll take Hawaii.
Vandy Tracker. Big shout out.
I'll take Hawaii on Kutt if you want to bet that. So if you want Vandy minus 17.5, you can do it on Kutt. Make me put my money where my mouth is, talking shit.
I will.
Shit goes wrong.
I will say this game last year, 63-10. I think it was around the same odds, and I made a very ugly pitch to my then podcast. So shout out Vandy. Hopefully they take care of business this year as I'm on the other side. Last one before we get out of here is probably, and I'm very excited to actually talk about this team because I want to hear your thought on it, Sim. USC's 30.5-point favorites against San Jose State. So last year, USC 60-22 beat Rice in their opener. This is an interesting one, but gentlemen, I'm taking San Jose State, and I'm taking them plus all 30.5 points. Chevon Cardario, probably got that wrong. 6-year starter. He's going to have 100 total touchdowns and have 15,000 multi-purpose yards by the end of his season. The kid is good defensively. USC, not good. We're talking about a team that last year, bottom 10 in the country, yards per play, 6.5. And they gave up 30 points per game. Rice, in their first game last year, absolute ass. San Jose State, pretty fucking good football team that's going to compete for their conference. And again, USC didn't get Tremaine Dye out of Oregon like they did last year to bolster the run game. And they didn't get Jordan Addison either. They got Singer out of Arizona, but again, he had 1,200 yards in a Pac-12 that refuses to play defense. I'm not high on USC to cover this one. Again, I'm picking them to win a shitty conference. But, guys, 30.5 points feels like a lot.
Yeah, I never touch lines above 30. Hell, I probably could even make that argument for 28, something like that. That's tough, especially as you said, kind of early season game with. I can't call them USC because I'm a South Carolina fan. We call ourselves USC, so, especially for Southern Cal, who, as you mentioned, has historically not had a great defense. I will say this though, and this is the one thing. This is something that I actually use this when I do bet college football. There are certain coaches that care about winning and style points. I would like to say Lincoln Riley is that kind of coach. Lane Kiffin's that kind of coach. Nick Saban's that kind of coach.
Big shout out, Lane. Big fan of his on this podcast.
Lane,
haven't gotten there yet.
But there are certain coaches. I'm missing probably a ton of them, but just specifically, I know a couple coaches that obviously they would never admit this, but they're aware of the spread. They want to win, and they want to win big. I do think the one thing that Southern Cal has going for them this year is that they're out to prove something. Lincoln Riley obviously has a lot to prove. Caleb Williams, he won the Heisman last year, but he still, is vying for that NFL spot at draft position. So I agree that 30.5 is a lot. I'd probably take San Jose State as well, but I do think Southern Cal has a good year where they put up a lot of points just because I think they're trying to impress.
Yeah, I agree. Joey, you've talked about you like Caleb. I like Caleb. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah,
he likes his nail polish. He told me that's what he
likes. Very nice.
When we've talked about Caleb, we've talked more about NFL teams tanking for him, mainly Vegas, Washington, Arizona, to name a few, probably those three who will be vying for him. But 30.5 week one, I mean, I've definitely taken spreads above 30, and it's normally like when Georgia's playing some shit school.
I
Like
agree.
on
The
the
D1
season,
double A's of the
and
world.
spread is like 36.5, and I'm like,
Mhm.
they're gonna win by 41 plus, and they win like 55-6 or something. But for this one, nice background there, Sam.
Oh,
it was sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry,
The
my
dark,
apologies.
yeah, I was gonna say the dark kind of looks better, but
I was sitting in the dark. I couldn't do this.
That was beautiful.
it looks like a good living room to
sorry.
watch. It looks like a good living room to watch
piano
some
over here. Yeah.
college football in. So
Good spot.
Sorry,
Good spot.
sorry about that.
No, you're good. I don't really have a pick right now, but this game will be late on Saturday, so I'm sure many people across the country will be betting throughout the day, and then they'll consume some alcohol, and then they'll just throw a bunch of shit on this game. Probably
One or
hammer the
two
30.5, minus 30,
Late night
or whatever.
Late
One or
night
two.
Pac-12, win it back.
Hey,
right?
how many more years do we have Pac-12 late at night?
That is
Sam?
true.
We've talked about it with a few other
Not
guys.
many.
How many more years we got Pac-12 late at night? Or are we talking?
Gotta embrace it while we have it.
Pac-12 is done. I mean, I don't
it's
think
done, right?
I think they have 1 year. I mean, I think this is it. I really do. Yeah.
You got to throw it out and start something new, right? You can't just go be Pac-12 and add San Diego State, Boise State.
Right.
You can't just be that same thing and do that. Granted, they just signed the Apple deal, so do they have to?
I mean, you can't have a 4-team. I mean, what are they going to absorb some of the?
Oh, that's the rule. When you get under,
I
think if under 8, you can't be a conference. But I don't know how that works because they just signed to be an Apple conference.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Well, Joey, I don't know about you, but I feel like we got enough this week as far as stuff. I think we'll talk AFC East, NFC North next week and just do one big NFL pod. What do you think?
I agree with you, man. I definitely wanted to get this week 0 preview with Sim tonight. So we'll do some more NFL talk next week as we'll be inching closer to that season. But week 0 is here, whether we like the name week 0 or not. Sim from Kutt. Download Kutt.
I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, Sim, do you have any socials that you want to shout out for yourself?
For myself, my personal, oh God, you'd be very, very disappointed. Well, for Kutt, it's for Kutt, it's KUTT bet BET. So Kutt Bet on Twitter as well as Instagram. I think on TikTok too. I'm 30 plus years old, as I said. I don't use TikTok, but
we've been navigating that as guys in their late 20s. We're also not great at it.
But yes, and you can actually see me on those. So if you would like to see my face, or if you just hate me, you could also go look and make fun of my content as well. We would take the engagement. I would take that. I would appreciate that.
Take every comment.
Yeah, exactly. But the last thing I'll say real fast, guys, and I know this is totally shameless, but Kutt is actually, we are running I'll call it a quote unquote futures contest. We will actually match and beat whatever odds you get on any NFL futures. So Super Bowl 58 NFL champion or NCAA football champion. We will beat the futures odds of any other book. So for instance, if you have FanDuel has, Bovada has Texas at plus 1,700. We do 5% over that. So we'll give you that extra little bonus as well.
Look at that. Man of the people.
So yes, if you are looking to do futures, we'll do it.
Man of the people, man. We love that.
Again, totally shameless. I had to do that plug at the end. So
this is why we keep having the peer-to-peer guys on. Honestly, like it's not even like the fact that you guys are all like fighting for the same space. It's the fact that you guys are the right space. This is the space that we want to be associated in. You guys are doing the best thing possible.
For sure.
Cutting out the middle. We're all we're all in the same boat, right?
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartely. Obviously, that's why that's why I started it. But I think the beauty is having guys like you, guys like y'all, to come on here, give your opinion, and then ultimately you can put your money where your mouth is, right? You can do that, bet against someone, whether it's your buddies or some guys on Twitter. So I do appreciate y'all having me, and thanks for allowing me to speak somewhat unintelligently, but maybe for effort on the SEC.
This isn't a very intelligent.
Yeah, nobody listens to this for the intelligence. Let's put that first.
I'm not a capper. Everyone should know that. Sam, same with you. O'Kane, you're
toe the line. I toe the line.
Social media capper, but hey, we all like talking ball. We all like talking action. Sim, thank you, man. If you are in New York and you want to do one of those social events you were talking about, you know where to find me.
Oh, definitely. We should definitely do that. Yeah, I would love to get. Yeah, for sure. I would love to get something done with y'all. I think everyone enjoys that these days, right? It's like a bunch of bettors getting in the place.
Put everybody in the same room.
O'Kane will fly. Yep. He'll show us how the Wisconsinites do it, and we'll have a good time.
Yep.
Amen.
Sounds good.
Love that.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Right.
I do appreciate it.
Of course, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. You, Sim. And again, we're going to be back next week, hopefully with some guests. We'll see about that again. Children pending. But again, Sim, can't thank you enough, man. This is very cool. We're definitely going to have you back on.
Yes, sir.
And Joey, as always, brother, it's always a pleasure,
man.
It's always
Week 0.
Week 0, man. We're talking football. We're talking real football. All right. That's all of us. We're out of here. Appreciate you guys. Download us, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, Twitch. Coming soon, by the way, Twitch. Joey, we got to work on that. But
Sam.
We're coming.
Work on that.
Talk to you guys later. Thank you very much for listening.
Block Talk. See ya.
All right. I think it's loading out. There she goes. All right. I think that's it.